Welcome back, YouTubers. What I thought I'd do is a bit of an update on the grid tie inverter and how it's been running with the 5 kilowatts that is currently in the Powerwall. Now, I've been turning it on normally after the cooking's been done, after when everyone's sitting around just watching TV, and pretty much running it for a few hours, sometimes all night, but majority of the time I'd turn it off before I go to bed, or sometimes I'm leaving it over until the next morning and then turning it off before I go to work. So right now it's a very manual turning it on, turning it off. I have to come into the garage, I have to flick the switch, and then I just normally flick the switch, check what the voltage is, and then go back inside the house. So that's how I've been testing in the last few weeks, or pretty much the last month, since I've connected it all up. The solar has been going really well. The charge controllers are performing as expected. They're charging the Powerwall easily, normally by 11 o'clock in the morning. So the rest of the time it's just sitting there making noise, really. But the grid tie inverter has been supplementing the power, or supplementing the grid really well. What I've got is a whole bunch of monitoring. So what I'll do is I'll show you how it looks on the monitoring, and show you what I'm missing on the monitoring and how we're going to get that, because those numbers are quite important. So what I'll do is I'll show you how it looks when I first turn the inverter on, and then I'll show you how it looks, what it does on the monitoring, what it does on the grid load. So what we're buying from what we're using from the grid, you obviously see that drop all the way down. So we're using less grid power, and because this is putting out power obviously for the house. So what I'll do is I'll show you how that looks on my monitoring system, and I'll go through the rest of it. So first of all, let's have a look at the inverter. Right, so this is how it looks when you turn the inverter on. I've just had it on for a few minutes, so the voltage has just dropped down a little bit from 82 point something down to 81 while I've been mucking around doing videos. However, this is kind of what the screen looks like if you haven't watched the other videos I've done on this inverter. But you've got some menus, you can go across to today's little graph there. This only shows the day's worth, and the problem is that this resets every night at midnight. So if you were to turn the inverter on during, say, 9 o'clock at night, and then you come in the next day in the morning, it's only going to show you from midnight until the next morning. So that's a bit of a pain in the butt, because sometimes you might actually want to know what you used throughout the whole night rather than just a short period of time. So this is pretty much useless. It's handy to know, I suppose, at the time, but realistically we need far better monitoring to actually figure out what's going on. So what I'll do is I'll show you what it looks like on the computer, and I'll show you how it looks on my main monitoring system, and we'll go from there. Right, so just before I show you what's on the screens behind me there, and what I'll do is I'll use the camera on the screen. I won't do a screen capture, because that way you can kind of see me pointing and things like that, which will make it easier to understand when you're watching it back. Now the one thing I thought I'd mention also was the Powerwall is also saving us money. In the last few weeks, or about a month now with testing, we've saved quite a lot of power, and we've saved a lot of money. So when you have solar, and you guys that have solar will know that when you have solar, you end up being put on by the power companies a low user charge, which is good, because then you pay a lower daily charge, which is good. However, you end up paying a higher per kilowatt hour charge. Now the problem is that a per kilowatt hour charge, or a higher charge, means that the power you use at night time, when you're not using power direct from your solar panels, the power you use at night time, grid power, you end up paying quite a lot for. Now right now in New Zealand anyway, with the power company I'm with, we're paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which is quite high. A normal power company in New Zealand's around 23 cents or 22 cents or somewhere around there for just normal rates. But when you're on a low user charge, you end up paying a lot more, and having obviously the benefit of a low daily charge. So pretty much, just in the summary of all that was, we pay 30 cents per kilowatt hour of power, and majority of the time we use that power only at night time, which means that for every 1 kilowatt hour of power that we can use from our Powerwall, and we don't buy grid power, we save 30 cents. Now 30 cents really does add up. So and what I've been testing, I've been normally doing tests at around 2 kilowatt hours and to 3 kilowatt hours, taking that amount of power out of the Powerwall, and it's making a bit of a difference. We're saving quite a lot of money. The last Powerwall has been dropped because of the power we're using from the Powerwall. Or from the batteries. So I'm really happy, things are working really well. Obviously we're only just getting started really with testing and things like that, and the full automation and making it just work as it should. But one thing that I thought I'd point out is that by saving 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 kilowatts each night, it makes a big difference. So saving 30 cents, just 1 kilowatt a night, 30 cents isn't that much. But if we're saving 2 or 3, and which is 90 cents a night, then that really is adding up. And over a month, obviously saving $1 a day, that you're saving $30 a month off your Powerwall by just using your Powerwall. So, and I've been seeing that flow through, and I've been looking at what the bills are on a daily basis from our power company. It shows it on an hourly basis on that as well. So I can see when I'm using the Powerwall, we're not buying any power. And obviously we're saving that 30 cents, so which is really good. So I just thought I'd point that out, that the Powerwall's definitely saving money. I'll go into detail way later down the track once we've kind of got everything up and going, but I thought I'd at least kind of mention that, and it's having some savings already, to the point that, you know, there's been a few days in the last few weeks that it's only cost $1 for power for that whole entire 24-hour period. So really happy with that. Now what I'll do is I'll quickly show you what we're seeing on the graphs, now that I've rambled on a bit, and you can see what I was talking about back in the garage. Right, so this is how it looks like on the monitoring system. So don't take any notice of this bar at the top here of information. So this is just what the house is using right now. So it's got no resemblance to what we used a few days ago. So yeah, forget this top part, just focus on this bottom part of information here. So as you can see on this day here, this shows us exactly when we turn the Powerwall on. This point here, see how what we've got here is the blue is the grid utilization, or what we're buying from the grid. It's also the load of the house, because they're exactly the same. What we buy from the grid is what we, without the batteries, is what we're using. So behind this you can see this bar that goes down here, that's actually yellow, and that is the solar. We obviously use far more power than we made in solar, but the key point on this chart here is that I turned the Powerwall on, and you can see a straight shift downwards of what we used from the grid. So up here we're using 800 watts, this is 600 watts, so we're using around the 700 watt mark, and as soon as I turn the Powerwall on, what we used from the grid immediately dropped down to the point that this says 100 if you can't see it on the camera, but you can see along here it's pretty much, we're sitting at 100 to just under 100 watts the rest of the time, or the rest of the night. Now that's not a very clear graph, but I'll at least show you another one. This one here, for example, you can see the sun, the yellow is the solar we're making. Again, the blue is the load, or the grid, what we're using from the grid. And you can see along here, as it gets later in the afternoon, the TVs and stuff get turned on. This is 1000 watts here, so we almost was hitting at around 900 watts there. As soon as I walked into the garage and turned the Powerwall on, what we're using from the grid dropped all the way down to about that 45 to 60 or 70 watts from the grid, and then that extended for the period of the time that I left the Powerwall running. So you can see that what we're doing is we're supplementing the grid, and we supplemented it all the way down to about 45 watts. So we still purchased 45 watts of power from the grid, however we made a big savings, because that all the rest of the power that's actually being used in here that you can't see on this chart is obviously direct from the Powerwall. So the power company is charging us for this very small amount of power here. They were charging us for this amount, but as soon as I turned that Powerwall on, it supplemented the power, and then it went for the rest of the night. So if I show you another one, this is another day while testing. You can see at 2100 hours I turned the Powerwall on. The load of the house, or what we've purchased from the grid, think of this as grid power. what we purchased from the grid dropped all the way down, so now we're using a very small amount of power for that period of time, and that was about 3 or 4 hours in this block here. The problem with this, as you can see straight away, is that this is only showing me what we're using from the grid, and you can see straight away is that I can't see any of this information here. I don't know how much power we used from the Powerwall. This is a photo that I've taken of the grid tie inverter in the garage. Now you can see on this the missing point of time, or the missing power utilization. You can see that this says a 500 watts, this is 1000 watts. You can see that we mainly sat between 500 and 750 for this period of time here. This is the missing data. However, the problem with this is that this screen that's on the inverter, as I said earlier, gets cleared every night. So the big problem is that this data disappears. Now in this period of time here, I'm not sure if this is going to pick it up on the camera very well, but this says down here 2.1 kilowatt hours. So that's how much power the Powerwall gave out between this point of time here. And that's the missing data that we need to see on this chart here, for example. It's roughly about the same. So, well, it's a different day, but it's very similar. I'm missing the data, so I don't know how much power is coming out of the Powerwall. So I need to fix that. Now, if I show you another chart on another screen, well, that's actually back to our first one. So that kind of gives you a bit of an idea, and I'll just flick you back to me. So that really shows you that we need to fill in those blanks. We need right now. I don't know how much power the Powerwall's giving out. I don't know or I don't know how much load the house has at that period of time, since it's now missing from my main monitoring system, or my power monitoring system. So I need to get that data in there. I've got a way to do it, and it's really in conjunction with the next video, really, which is going to be on the BMS. So that's going to be coming out in the next few days. I'm just about to do some videos on it, and that's really going to fill in those gaps and those pieces. But what so far I'm really happy with the inverter. It's working as expected. The Powerwall, the first 5 kilowatts, is working as expected. I haven't used up all of it. I've only been testing it with about 2 kilowatts, as I said. At this stage, without putting the BMS unit in, and without making sure that there's an automatic cutoff at that 60 volts, or when the cells get to 3 volts per cell, without having that limit in there, I don't really want to just leave it on and let it go. So, and it needs to have something to turn it off. So right now that's all very manual, but either way, the inverter's been doing its job. It's been working really well, and overall I'm really pleased so far. As I said, next step is to get that BMS up there, and to get that to get some automation in there, so that it becomes an automatic process. I don't have to keep turning on things and turning off things, and then I can start focusing on the next 5 kilowatt hours. So realistically, bit of an update for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please comment below, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys.